two things on this. I mean, I think they really let the cat out of the bag in some ways when they said, and by the way, we've also got a problem with extremist rhetoric and all sorts of other bad things on social media. So this will be actually a really good opportunity to be able to clamp down on that. Essentially, what they're saying is we're going to clamp down on political speech. And so I think, in some ways, one of the cats in the bag was let out. And we've got, Julie Inman Grant, Karen, who's head of the E-Safety Commission. And she actually goes around censoring, for example, anti-trans ideology tweets and things like that. There is definitely an appetite among many people in Canberra to censor political speech that they consider to be, and not just political speech, religious speech that they consider to be both dangerous and harmful. And that's one reason I am very, very skittish about granting governments powers to be able to, say, ban social media or ban certain kinds of social media for minors. But the second thing I'll say is, look, I do, and look, I hope I'm not being naive, but I do tend to agree with those, and Ben sort of alluded to this, that think that ultimately this is something that needs to fall mostly on the shoulders of parents. And an interesting thought experiment might be, let's say tomorrow, just imagine this, go with me here. Imagine that tomorrow it became legal for minors to drink and for minors to smoke. Would parents suddenly start allowing their children to drink and smoke? Now, some would. I will absolutely admit that. But I would wager that the overwhelming majority of parents would not allow their children to smoke and to drink. Why? Because they know it's not something that they should be doing. And the point I'm trying to make is that when parents sort of know that there are things that their kids shouldn't be doing, they can actually stop them from doing it. For example, when I was young, and I think they're still legal, BB guns were legal. But hardly any of my friends had them. Why? Because their parents wouldn't let them get them. And I guess the point I would want to make is, like, parents can exercise some control over what their kids do. And I think that we should be looking first and foremost at how to help parents enforce rules about social media to their children rather than straight away looking to the state. Because as soon as we outsource our parenting to the state, it'll start by treating children like children, but very quickly, like Julie Inman Grant, it will start treating all of us like children.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry,
no, I'm with you. Parenting should be with the parents, not with the state. So I agree. People should be monitoring the children, what they have access to on the internet. It's an issue that starts at the home, actually, what the children are allowed to have access to. I'm with you, Steve. Keep it away from the state. Did you have something?
No, I agree with everything you say.
Yeah, I think, just another point to note is with parental controls, I tested out, I won't say which company, but a very reputable company's parental control system. I tested it out on a phone. I was able to bypass it quite easily. So for a kid, they're still going to be able to bypass it. What we need is to set up an app that parent could download, put on their child's phone. They can then log in and see, or have a portal they can see, what their kid what websites a kid goes to and all that sort of stuff. They can actually block Facebook completely if they really want to. But it's foolproof. The way you do it is it has to be a firewall on the device. You put a firewall on there, and it actually, in the firewall rules, it blocks certain websites. It doesn't matter what protocol they're using to try and get out of it. It's going to be filtered out. So that's one of the things to consider. If they're punching out through a tunnel, then yeah, sure, it's going to bypass the firewall. But that's you put in there by default that you can block, certain types of connections going out and all that sort of thing, which would actually make it so the device is locked down and the kid can't bypass it. And what they would actually do is, parents who are super busy, they don't have time to learn the tech, they don't have time to monitor what their kid is doing, but if they have an app they can put there that gives them peace of mind that no one's going to be able to contact the kid, they can't download and install a new app that could potentially open up predators to messaging them, all their SMSs get overlay. So if they get a number that's not in their contacts, for example, it notifies the parent. Same with the phone call. You could even set it so it blocks SMS and blocks phone calls from unknown numbers that aren't in the contact list. Because some parents might like, only the family should be calling my kid. So that's the kind of things they could bring in, and it's in there. It cannot be removed as an app, and it basically locks down the device. Now, there's certain features that were in it, like being able to track the location for safety purposes and things like that, but I'm a little bit adamant to do that to children because of the simple fact, yes, it would massively help parents if they know, hey, my kid is, off in the bush somewhere and it's a school day, but I think about the child's mental health, being watched, being monitored. You do not want to have a situation where a child is growing up in the world, Big Brother's watching me, I'm being tracked. That's not what we want to do for our kids. But if you do it the way I said with the, taking away the content, monitoring the content, so the child cannot bypass it, cannot be exposed to the bad content, then that's going to be a huge gain for parents, but it's not invasive and going to ruin the kid's life or make them feel like they're being watched. They'll actually feel like, hey, I'm being looked after,
Absolutely.
What about a cultural shift in terms of seeing an iPhone as a kind of rite of passage in the same way that we do, say, alcohol, cigarettes, owning a car at the age of 18, right? Rather than giving 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds iPhones, give them dumb phones. And the iPhone can be something, and this will just be hopefully something that sort of just weaves into the culture that you get when you're 18, when you've got the kind of mental stamina to be able to withstand when someone mean tweets about you. Yeah. I mean, there needs to be a cultural shift about these things. As a historian, I know that in the 19th century, in some primary schools, kids were given beer. It was just a way to give them the calories that they needed for the day. But culture sort of shifted on, and now that is sort of impermissible. And you could maybe have the same kind of thing. Like, we're in a culture where kids have iPhones, but culture can change if parents, really are determined to drive that cultural change.
I'm certainly with you there. I think, with alcohol, the introduction of that being one of the best things to use as a case study. With Aboriginal communities, when they first came across alcohol, they couldn't get enough of it. They'd never been exposed to it. It wasn't in their genetics. What would take many beers for Europeans to get drunk on, it took a lot. Took a lot less for Aboriginal communities to get drunk on. Similarly, with social media, I fear for young men, and I'd have no problem talking about this. I once had a problem with pornography, just like Graham